Well, hello everyone. How are you doing today? I hope it's better than I am. I might sound like I'm sick. It's not. It's the pain. I really wish people would understand how debilitating chronic pain can be, especially when it gets really bad. On days like today, when it's cold, it's humid, there's low pressure. Maybe if more people understood this, I wouldn't keep having to cover stories like this. Yes, this is another case of the Department of Justice going after pharmacies, and this time it's nationwide. They're going after Walgreens. This is getting really serious. No more going after these little out-of-the-way pharmacies. This is the whole thing. Directly from the Office of Public Affairs of the U.S. Department of Justice. No crank conspiracy sites or anything. This is what they're saying. Justice Department files nationwide lawsuit alleging Walgreens knowingly filed millions of prescriptions that lacked a legitimate medical purpose. If you are not a medical doctor, you are not a diagnostician, and you did not examine the patient, how the hell do you know if it had a legitimate medical purpose? That's the big question to keep in mind during all of this. So yeah, this is a civil complaint filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Illinois. This is federal. Walgreens dispensed millions of unlawful prescriptions in violation of the Controlled Substances Act and then sought reimbursement for many of those prescriptions from various health care programs in violation of the False Claims Act. So, of course, pharmacists don't just fill the prescriptions. They cost money and they have to charge you for it, but if you're insured, or if you're covered by Medicare and Medicaid, that's where they go to get the reimbursement from. And if it's Medicare and Medicaid, that's from the federal government, and that's where the False Claims Act comes in. That's how they're doing this. The head of this is Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General Brian M. Boynton. And he said, this lawsuit seeks to hold Walgreens accountable for the many years that it failed to meet its obligations when dispensing dangerous opioids and other drugs. I have to say it again. Check this entire playlist if you don't believe me. Look at all the sources. Prescription opioids are not dangerous. They're among the safest drugs they distribute. There are plenty of drugs that are far more dangerous than opioids. There are over-the-counter drugs that are more dangerous than opioids. This is ridiculous. Our complaint alleges that Walgreens pharmacists filled millions of controlled substance prescriptions with clear red flags. What if I said, people? Red flag laws are here, just not with guns, with us pain patients. That indicated the prescriptions were highly likely to be unlawful. Walgreens systematically pressured its pharmacists to fill prescriptions, including controlled substance prescriptions, without taking the time needed to confirm their validity. How much time does it take? It's done electronically. And these electronic systems are insanely secure. Made sure that no one other than the prescribing physician has sent that prescription to the pharmacy. What do you need to confirm? That is the confirmation. That's how it works. These practices allowed millions of opioid pills and other controlled substances to flow illegally out of Walgreens stores. Yeah. Walgreens knowingly filled millions of prescriptions for controlled substances that lacked a legitimate medical purpose, were not valid, and or were not issued in the usual course of your professional practice. Again, how do they know that? They're not MDs. They're politicians. They're bureaucrats. They're lawyers. They're not MDs, and they did not examine the patients. And neither are pharmacists. Pharmacists do not have medical degrees. They are not doctors. They are not diagnosticians. They did not examine the patient. And they filled dangerous and excessive quantities of opioids, prescriptions for early refills of opioids. How many of you have prescriptions that like refill every month? Whatever it is, blood pressure medicine, whatever. You go and you get your prescription, maybe you get it a few days early, and no one cares. You're going on vacation. I just want to get it filled a little bit early. No one cares. Unless it's an opioid. With an opioid, according to them, you have to get it refilled the very day you run out. Otherwise, this happens. And the prescriptions for the especially dangerous and abused combination of drugs known as the Trinity, which is made up of an opioid, a benzodiazepine, and a muscle relaxant. In other words, a pain management regimen. God, how many pain patients are on these? Safely. For decades. With no problems. And again, it goes into they violated the CSA, and where Walgreens sought reimbursement from federal healthcare programs, also violated the FCA. Let's think about this a second. Who are a lot of these chronic pain patients going to be? They're going to be the elderly, right? Because trust me, as you get older, this only gets worse. And people who have had no problems throughout their life, all of a sudden now have to deal with arthritis and other degenerative diseases, degenerative bone diseases, spinal disc diseases, all sorts of things. Fibromyalgia, whatever. The older you are, the more likely you are to suffer from these things, the more likely you are to need pain medicine. And with the way we've designed our absolutely insane government healthcare system in America, and make no mistake, we do have a government healthcare system in America. If you're elderly, basically your insurance is Medicare and Medicaid. So what are all these elderly to do when they suffer pain and they get their pain medicine and they're on Medicaid? They need their medicine. They need to get it filled at the pharmacy, and the pharmacy is going to seek reimbursement from the federal government. Well, now, this precedent right here says that if they do that, they can get sued out of existence. And we've actually seen pharmacies shut down and pharmacists arrested over things like this. And now it's happening nationwide with Walgreens. What's that going to do? That's going to have a chilling effect on pharmacists. If you're on Medicare or Medicaid, and you come in with a prescription for pain medicine, as you are more likely to do if you're elderly or disabled, what's going to happen? They're going to be more likely to go, oh no, if we fill this, the feds might come shut us down, and they'll refuse. And there you are, another pain patient cut off. More people tortured on the altar of the war on drugs. As alleged in the complaint, who is this? This is Acting U.S. Attorney Morris Pascal for the Northern District of Illinois. Walgreens continually disregarded its obligations under the CSA and FCA by illegally dispensing powerful controlled substances and unlawfully seeking reimbursement from federal healthcare programs. These laws are critically important in protecting our communities from the dangers of the opioid epidemic. No, they aren't. Because as I have shown repeatedly, and as there is source after source after source after source after source to confirm repeatedly, prescription opioids are not the problem. Black market drugs are, especially illicitly manufactured fentanyl. We just elected a new president largely over that. The very day I'm recording this on January 20th, on this day, he takes office again for the second time. In large part because people are worried about fentanyl coming across the border and all of the crimes and all of the overdose and all of the dangers that it's causing. That has nothing to do with prescription opioids. Nothing. I'm not going to read all these flunkies, but here's another one. U.S. Attorney Eric Barron for the District of Maryland. Pharmacies play a critical role in ensuring that only lawful controlled substance prescriptions are dispensed. Walgreens failed to do just that. Again, they're saying that pharmacists have to second guess MDs doctors who examined the patient and decided that this was valid and this was needed. We are committed to holding Walgreens accountable for its role in the opioid epidemic that has devastated communities across the country, including in Maryland. But Walgreens played no role in that. We've covered this. We've also covered how the real cause of these overdoses is black market drugs, but how they are deliberately lying when they fill out those reports and willfully and knowingly misattributing them to prescription opioids. This has got to be one of the biggest scandals of our time. We need more people pointing this out. All right, who else do I want to quote here? I think a lot of these people are just saying the same thing over and over again. Just fear-mongering, really. Oh yeah, let's talk about the whistleblowers. 4 different whistleblowers who previously worked for Walgreens in various parts of the country filed whistleblower actions under the FCA. They authorized private parties to sue on behalf of the United States for false claims and share in any recovery. The act permits the United States to intervene and take over such lawsuits as it has done here. Okay, so what's going on? Well, we have whistleblowers. Who knows who they are? I think after all this time, we are very much justified in at least asking the question, are they federal informants? Are they, what's the term they use for them, ICs or whatever it is? Or CIs? I don't know what they call them. They're not like officially agents, and that's how, like, they had all of those people on the ground in Jan 6, but they could say, oh, there were no federal agents on the ground, because they were thinking like, oh, agents must be employees, and so there weren't any employees going around. Yeah, but you had informants all over the place. And we also know, repeatedly, from so many different cases, that they feed the information to the informants that they want to give back. And that's what a lot of these whistleblowers are. I don't know about these 4, but I think it's definitely legitimate to ask the question. So what happens then? Based on the whistleblowers, there's a private civil action. A bunch of ambulance chasers get together and sue the pharmacy over it. And then what happens? Once that's done, the United States can then come into that lawsuit and say, I'll have that. And now it's a federal action. Now it's actually done by the federal government. All made to look so lily white. Like, oh no, we just took over this private civil action. We're not the initiators of it, but do you see how incestuous it is? Do you see how it goes through the cycle? If you're a corrupt agent and you want to get a federal lawsuit in where otherwise you wouldn't be allowed to have one, all you do is send in your informants. You have them get a job at Walgreens. You have them report on whatever you want, blow the whistle. And then you have all these other lawyers sue Walgreens over it. And then you take over the lawsuit. The United States intervention in this matter underscores the government's commitment to combating healthcare fraud. You're committing healthcare fraud. You are deliberately misattributing deaths caused by black market opioids to prescription opioids. And you're using that to commit fraud and unjust prosecution of doctors, of pharmacists, of individuals, people who are involved in just helping people stay out of pain and be able to just go and live their lives day after day, even when it gets cold, even when it gets humid, even when the pressure drops, even when you get, like today here, all those things are at the same time. We got the trifecta today. And as I said, it can be debilitating. Pain alone can be a disability. And I'm looking at one, I'll probably do a video on it, but I'm looking over the study still. But there are indications that untreated or undertreated chronic pain can lead to permanent brain damage. It's like, what the hell, people? And you're accusing other people of healthcare fraud? All right, anything else here? I guess just this one more. The Justice Department is committed to holding responsible those who have fueled the opioid crisis by violating the law. Yeah, that's what they've been doing. I mean, isn't it against the law to falsify medical records and misattribute a death caused by one thing to a death caused by the other thing? Isn't it against the law to corruptly? They actually got the Jan 6ers on this before the Supreme Court said, no, wait, this is about documents. But the actual law is about documentation. To corruptly change documentation. Legal documents that are then used in lawsuits. Is that not exactly what they're doing here? Not to mention the fact that this whole war on drugs is against the Constitution to begin with. And it doesn't do any good. We learned that lesson in Prohibition. If they hadn't been doing this, then there would be no opioid crisis. Patients would be able to get plenty of pain medicine, and there would be no fentanyl crisis at the border or anywhere else. Because these things would be safely produced and freely available. And before you go on about addicts, remember, this has nothing to do with why people are addicts. People are addicts because they have some sort of underlying problem that needs to be addressed. Address that problem, and you address the addiction. This is none of that. This is none of that. This is psychopathy just to get power and control. I don't even know how people like this think. Just honestly, I don't. I have trouble thinking at this level of evil. What you have to be able to do this. And to be able to justify it, to be able to put your name on it, and to be proud of it. How horrible a human being do you have to be? I guess I'll never understand. Thank you so very much for watching. Comments for the comment god, shares for the share throne. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell. And of course, donate.pagosity.tv. Keep me doing what I do through good weather and bad, through thick and thin. The motivation to do this. I really need the motivation to do this. And the more support I get, the more that motivation is. So if you really do appreciate what I do, you can do a one-time donation or become a regular supporter. Get these videos early and ad-free. I need to schedule the live stream for this month. I do a 2-hour live stream for supporters every month. There's also an AMA. You can join in on that. Other benefits too. Please check all of that out. Thank you so very much for watching. Until next time, stay strong and be free.